4 car brands that aren't startups, not some EV company that shipped 12 vehicles last quarter. These are brands your parents trusted. And right now, every single one is bleeding out in ways the headlines aren't capturing. I'm not talking about a bad quarter. I'm talking about brands where the financials are so broken that what happens to your warranty, your resale value, and your ability to get parts in 5 years is now a legitimate question. I've spent 20 years under vehicles. Here's the framework. 4 brands, ranked by one number how much risk you take on as an owner in 2026. Not horsepower, not badge prestige. Real risk to your wallet. We're starting with the slowest bleed and working up to the one that genuinely might not exist in 18 months. Number 4, Infiniti. Infiniti sold 52,846 vehicles in the US last year. Toyota moves more Camrys in about 6 weeks. The number that should worry you isn't the sales figure, it's the dealership count. Infiniti retailers have been walking away. When a Nissan dealer can sell the same customer a loaded Pathfinder for less money with stronger warranty perception, the Infiniti showroom becomes a footnote on the same lot. More franchises are getting absorbed into Nissan dealerships, where they get a corner and a banner. I had a customer real estate agent, drove a QX60 20,000 miles a year. Transmission started slipping at 82,000 miles. She called 3 dealerships. 2 had dropped Infiniti entirely. The third had 1 loaner and a 4-week wait. She traded it for a Highlander before the diagnostic was finished. That's the real-world consequence, not just resale value, but whether you can get the thing fixed. The engineering is frustrating because Infiniti isn't building bad vehicles. The QX60's 3.5-liter V6 is the same engine Nissan's been refining for 2 decades, capable of 200,000 miles when maintained. The problem is everything around it. Infotainment systems that freeze, sensor failures that trigger check engine lights for non-issues, interior materials that show wear faster than anything in the segment. Compared to a Lexus RX, same price, depreciates at half the rate, and you'll never wonder whether the dealership exists next year. That gap at resale $6,000 to $8,000 after 5 years is the Infiniti tax. The weakness: CVT transmissions in anything pre-2022. Walk away. Post-2022 models with the 9-speed automatic? Solid. Buyer's checklist: confirm which dealerships near you still service Infiniti, verify the transmission type, pull the Carfax for sensor-related electrical repairs. Ideal owner: someone who finds a post-2022 QX60 at a steep discount from a panic seller and lives near a surviving dealership. Number 3, Chrysler. Chrysler sells exactly 2 vehicles, the Pacifica and the 300. And the 300 is dead after this model year. 2 vehicles, 1 discontinued. Stellantis lost $26 billion. When a conglomerate loses that kind of money, the smallest brands don't get saved, they get starved. No R&D, no new product pipeline, no replacement for the 300, no new crossover, nothing. I had a contractor bring in a Pacifica hybrid last winter check engine light, hybrid system fault. The part was back-ordered 11 weeks. He had to rent a minivan to keep working. That's what happens when a brand stops investing in its parts supply chain. The Pacifica itself, the gas-only Pentastar Phi 6 is one of the better minivans on the market when it's working. Stow-and-go seats are genuinely clever. Ride quality beats the Odyssey, but when it's working is doing heavy lifting. The hybrid system has been a reliability disaster, and Chrysler's electrical architecture generates gremlins that are expensive to diagnose and harder to fix. Compare a Pacifica to a Toyota Sienna. The Sienna costs about $3,000 more upfront, but holds value at roughly double the rate after 5 years. You're not saving money buying the Chrysler, you're just paying later. The weakness: the hybrid system. Buy the gas-only V6 or don't buy one. The 300, while mechanically solid, that ZF 8-speed and Pentastar are proven as a vehicle from a brand that may not exist when you need a fender in 2029. Buyer's checklist: confirm parts availability for model-specific modules, avoid the hybrid, price and the depreciation hit. Ideal owner: someone who needs a minivan now, buys the gas-only Pacifica at a heavy discount, and plans to drive it into the ground. I'm not ranking these brands by sales volume or stock price. I'm ranking them by one number: how far your dollar goes before the vehicle or the company behind it gives up. That's the only math that matters when you're writing the check. Number 2, Jaguar. Jaguar's European sales dropped 97.5% year over year. They sold 49 vehicles in Europe in 1 month. Not 49,000. 49. Here's what most people don't understand. Jaguar isn't trying to sell what they have. They're trying to survive long enough to launch an all-electric lineup priced above Bentley. The F-Pace, the last combustion Jaguar standing, is essentially placeholder product. The company is burning cash waiting for a reinvention that may never arrive. I had a restaurant owner who bought a used F-Pace 3 years ago. Beautiful vehicle, supercharged V6. The handling, the interior, he loved it. Then the infotainment blanked out during drives. Sunroof drains clogged and flooded the passenger footwell. Supercharger coupler started rattling at 60,000 miles. Each repair was a multi-week ordeal because Jaguar parts distribution has contracted alongside everything else. He sold it at a $14,000 loss. The engineering underneath the Jaguar, the aluminum architecture, the suspension tuning, the supercharged engines is excellent when it's right. The problem has always been execution. Electrical systems they never sorted, cooling components that fail early, a dealer experience that doesn't match the sticker price. Compare an F-Pace to a Porsche Macan. Costs more upfront, depreciates at 1/3 the rate. The Jaguar is the cheaper entry ticket with the much more expensive exit. The weakness, everything electrical. If the screen flickers during a test drive, it's a preview of ownership. Supercharged V6 models need the coupler inspected a known failure at $2,500 to fix. Buyer's checklist, full service history, test every electrical function twice. Supercharger inspection on V6 models, confirm a Jaguar dealer still exists within range. Ideal owner, someone who understands they're buying from a brand, betting its future on a pivot that hasn't happened, and prices that risk in. If you've made it this far, you're clearly not here for the marketing brochures. Hit subscribe. Number 1. Nissan. Nissan's CFO told the Financial Times the company has 12 to 14 months of survival runway, $4.2 billion annual loss, operating losses of 60 billion yen. This isn't a restructuring, it's an existential crisis at Japan's third largest automaker. The numbers are brutal, but the real story is how Nissan got here. They flooded rental fleets and subprime lenders with Rogues and Altimas for years, chasing volume over margin, and the consequences are landing all at once. Merger talks with Honda collapsed. The product pipeline is thin. Dealerships, many dual-branded with Infiniti, are watching both sides decline simultaneously. I've worked on hundreds of Nissans, pre-2020 models with the CVT. I wouldn't let a family member buy one, but the post-2022 Pathfinder, the new Frontier, the latest Rogue with the revised CVT, these are genuinely improved vehicles. Nissan fixed a lot of the engineering. The question isn't whether the 2026 Rogue can reach 150,000 miles. It's whether Nissan exists to supply the parts when it gets there. I had a nursing student last spring bought a used 2021 Rogue, financed 6 years. CVT started juddering at 71,000 miles. Warranty had just expired. The replacement cost was more than she had left on the loan. Underwater on a vehicle that couldn't move. That's the Nissan risk in one story. Not that every vehicle fails, but that when one does, the protection you thought you had isn't there. Compare a Rogue to a RAV4. The Toyota costs about $2,500 more and will still be worth something in 5 years regardless of the global economy. The Nissan's resale curve is tied to a company publicly warning about its own survival. The weakness, CVT transmissions and anything pre-2022 remain a gamble. Post-2022 9-speed automatics in the Pathfinder and Frontier are solid, and the revised CVT in the latest Rogue is improved, but the track record isn't long enough to call it solved. Buyer's checklist: confirm transmission type, avoid pre-2022 CVTs without a warranty, check resale curves against Toyota and Honda equivalents, budget for the dealer network contracting. Ideal owner: someone who buys a post-2022 Pathfinder or Frontier vehicles that are actually well-engineered at a discount driven by market panic, with eyes wide open. Infiniti: buy only near a surviving dealership, post-2022, steep discount. Chrysler: gas-only Pacifica, drive it into the ground. Jaguar: beautiful vehicles from a company that sold 49 cars in Europe last month, price that in. Nissan: 12 to 14 months of runway, genuinely improved products, and a risk profile that makes more sense at panic discount than at sticker. The badge on the hood has never mattered less. What matters is whether the company behind it survives long enough to matter at all. Drive safe.